Hey everyone, Josh here with Overland AZ, and today we are working on suspension on our new to us Turtleback trailer. I'm at my buddy Chris's place, and let's get started talking about what we're doing and why. So this is my new to me 2018 Turtleback Expedition trailer. Picked this up a few months ago on Facebook Marketplace, and I haven't done a full walk around video on it yet. I will do that. I've had a couple things that I want to do and get done on the trailer before I get it out on any really big major trips, but once I have all these things done, we will get it out. We'll get a full walk around video on it and talk about the history of this particular trailer, why we bought it, and what we enjoy about it. But today we're crossing off one of the must-do things on this trailer. So again, it's a 2018, and the suspension was feeling a little tired. So we're doing an upgrade to the Timbren 3500 HD suspension. I'm gonna walk over and show you the old suspension that we pulled out of this and talk about why we took that suspension out and why we're going to the Timbren. And then this video is really just gonna be kind of a high level overview of the installation, what it looks like to swap to this suspension. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the old suspension now. By the way, we are doing this at my buddy Chris's place. So here's his Jeep, beautiful blue. And we got Clifford here. And so we'll head over here. We've got the old suspension in the back of this truck. And so this is Turtleback's Icon suspension. So it's what they call their signature suspension. It's got coil springs. It has Icon shocks on it. It's fully independent, 3,500 pound axles. The reason that we took this out, and the big problem with this, this is one of the early generations of this. In fact, this is probably one of the first Icon suspensions ever installed on a Turtleback trailer. This has a 3,500 pound standard duty spindle installed, and it's welded in place. So if you snap a spindle on this, you can't just unbolt that and replace it out in the field. You actually have to replace this entire control arm. So this would need to be updated regardless. But what we're moving to is a Timbren setup, which is going to be more field serviceable. We're going to be able to get parts kind of across the country for it if we're on a trip and we run into issues, and shed a lot of weight from what this setup has. So the first thing we did to start on this project was add in something that I've really wanted the trailer to have, and it was kind of a must-have for me, and that is these ARC XO stabilizers. These can actually be used as not only leveling devices, so you see I have one here and one on the other side, obviously for leveling your trailer out at camp, but these are actually rated to lift the whole weight of the trailer. So a key part of installing these before doing the suspension is we're actually able to raise and level the frame of the trailer so that we could drop the old suspension out and install the new suspension. So that just made it a whole lot easier. Now Chris's son helps me out a ton, and he actually welded the brackets on here onto the frame on both sides. Did a really great job. This is gonna be really sturdy and much easier for leveling the trailer out. So I'm really excited for that. Coming back over here, we've already been kind of working on the suspension for about most of today and a little bit of prep work yesterday. But this is the new Timbren 3500 HD suspension. I'll show you a photo here of the difference in the size of the spindle between the HD version that we have on here and the 3500 standard duty that you just saw on the Icon suspension. But this setup is still fully independent. So there's no torsion bar or axle that runs all the way through. We do have a support beam here that I'll show that's gonna kind of tie the two ends together for stability. But the big benefit of going with this kind of setup is this spindle setup here actually bolts on to the suspension arm. So I can carry a spare spindle in the trailer if we're down a nasty washboard road or bounce this thing off a rock too hard and we damage one of the spindles or bust a bearing or something like that. All of this is serviceable in the field, and so we can carry extra parts, and that's something that we couldn't do with the Icon suspension. We're on the passenger side of the trailer right now, and you can see the new Timbren arm suspension spring is kind of mocked up into place. On the side of the frame, you can see where the original Icon suspension, the subframe, mounted onto the frame here. That was actually really easy to remove on this. Basically 4 bolts, and we dropped the suspension out. Now installing the Timbren springs, there's a little bit of measuring and fabrication and things that have to happen because we are retrofitting this onto a trailer that didn't have it. from the get-go. So we did some measurements. We kind of found our center point here in the middle. This is obviously going to kind of run on a radius and arc as it goes up. So we compensated for that and pushed it forward a little bit. So when we have weight in the trailer and resting on the spring, this should be centered in the middle of our wheel well to clear our 33-inch tires that we have on the trailer. I believe I'm actually going to be able to fit a 35 on here if I wanted to. And so once we kind of had that point mocked up where we wanted this thing to be, we used a jack just to lift the spring up into place, marked everything out. We confirmed that this middle bolt was dead center on both sides. And so that was kind of a reference point for us to measure where exactly to position this and to make sure that we were square across both sides. We drilled through the frame in 3 points here. And so you can see these bolts go all the way through and they just pass through to the other side of the frame. And so right now we're working on a backing plate. So it'll be a 1/4-inch steel backing plate that's gonna go on the back side of the frame here so that we can torque everything down. And then moving up front, we have a 2x3 steel bar. This is 1/4-inch thick as well. And so after we get those backing plates on, we'll get the suspension arms kind of torqued down on the frame. We're gonna mark this here, slide this back out, trim it, paint it, and then this actually gets bolted into place. And so what this bar does, it just provides additional structural integrity to tie both sides together since it is independent. So it kind of acts as like a subframe between the two, and it just adds to the rigidity of what this thing's capable of off-road. So over here, Chris has been working on those backing plates that I mentioned. So here's what he has marked out. This is gonna be the driver's side. Made a couple cardboard templates that fit up there. We marked for the bolts. And so this is essentially what's gonna go on the back side of the frame, just to help provide some support for those mounting bolts. And we're gonna go out in the back right now and trim these out with this plasma cutter so we can get that mounted in and start working on that cross tube. While he's getting set up here with the plasma cutter, we take a look at his trailer. So he has, what year is this?
2017.
2017, so a year prior to mine for the Turtleback Expedition. You can see where they made some design changes on the box from the 2017 to the 2018 model, but overall, it's the same trailer. And he did his Timbren suspension a couple years ago, maybe a year ago or so, and he's running 35s on it. So he has the same setup that we're installing on mine. That's kind of your clearance with 35s. I don't know that I'm gonna go to that size tire, but knowing that I can if I want to, it's kind of nice. So here we have our backing plates, and Chris is just getting these finished up, cut them out with the plasma cutter, and we're gonna go ahead and grind them down and clean them up a little bit before we get them installed. All right, so before we drill holes into these backing plates to mount them on the back, we're just gonna see how they fit up, if we have to do any extra trimming on them. And then once we get that confirmed, that one looks like it's almost there. We can start drilling our 3 holes and get our bolts mounted in.
I think we're high on this small end down here.
All right, so after a bit of grinding and finessing these down, we now have our 2 backing plates, which are gonna go on the inside of the frame rails. So we're gonna drill through here. We just used our template, center punch these and marked them. All right, so here are the backing plates that we made yesterday. And these basically sit just on the other side of the frame rail for the bolts to grab onto. Kind of like a big washer, but just something to give some more support so we don't actually crush the frame as we tighten these bolts up. So have one for each side. And then our tube that runs across to just kind of distribute forces is what we have out here. So we pre-drilled this, got everything painted up, and we'll go ahead and probably get this thing knocked in now.
It should just go outside a couple times, and she just would not.
Good morning, everyone. It is day 3 working on the suspension. I just got over to Chris's house, and we're gonna wrap up hopefully today. If you're following along with the timeline, so day 3, Friday was day 1. I came over after my full-time job and we dropped the Icon suspension. Day 2, we got the new Timbren suspension mocked up into place where we wanted it. We got our holes drilled through the frame. We made our templates for the backing plates to help support those arms when we bolt them in. We got our tube in place, drilled and cut. And so now today I'll show you the final backing plates and the tube that we wrapped up. And we're gonna go ahead and just get ready to start bolting everything in for the final time. Once we get everything torqued down, we'll get the brakes and hub assembly installed, and then we'll get everything aligned, throw the wheels back on, and get this thing out on a test drive. Slide under here real quick and show you the back side of what we have going on here. So you can see our backing plate installed. The middle and rear bolts are tightened down, not fully torqued, but tightened. And then this one is the trouble one. So on the Turtleback frame, you have this cross member support that goes across for the floor here. So we had to cut out our backing plate for that. This side, we'll try to get a washer on here, but there's not a ton of play on there. The other side, we were able to easily get one on, so we'll see, we may just have to grind one down to get it in place. Okay, the bar is in. Chris got all 4 of the bolts in across both sides. We left these loose for right now. We're gonna wait to torque everything down until everything's in place. And so now we are just getting these ones fully seated. We're gonna tighten these ones down loosely first on both sides. We'll double check our measurements here and just make sure everything's exactly where we wanted it. Timbren does say you have a 3mm variance on each side, but I think we're within about 1 millimeter right now is where we're at. And then once we're good, we'll torque these down. I think the torque value was 165 or 175. These bolts here, we use an M8 1/2 inch, and so we'll look up online. They don't give you torque specs for these because you have to source these bolts yourself, but we'll look online and just find a good torque spec for these. All right, so we have our main arm bolts fully torqued down. That's these 3 bolts on each side here. These took, they say 165 to 175 foot-pounds of torque. So fully tightened on both sides. That's got these plates pulled up right where we want them. Now we're gonna move up, and we're gonna move up to these bolts behind my head here, and these are the ones that go to the cross member. We looked up the torque specs for just a grade 8 M8 1/2 inch bolt, and we're seeing about 100, 110 foot-pounds. So we'll get those torqued up, and we should be good on all the structural stuff. So now with the arms in place, we can go ahead and get our spindles mounted in. So Chris is just running on the passenger side here, getting all 4 bolts in. Bolts come up from the bottom, washer on each side. We're gonna torque these down, and then we have a alignment machine, or kind of like an alignment guide that we're gonna mount onto here so that we can get both sides aligned. So the kit comes with these shims that you can fit under there to adjust camber and toe. So once we get them both fully torqued in, we're probably gonna have to play with both sides a little bit, but I'll try to get some video of what that process looks like. Passenger side, all bolted up. Chris is working on driver's side now. One tool that's gonna come in handy with this, or if you have a Jeep and you're doing any kind of alignment work, is an alignment plate that actually bolts to the hub. Here you can see we have it mounted to the backing plate where the brakes are gonna mount, but just a flat surface so we can get reference points for measuring camber as well as toe. And basically what this does is it gives you a flat surface in front and behind your wheel hub. And you do the same thing on the other side. So you can see Chris is over there with the other one. And we can take measurements from here to that side, and then from here over to that side there and compare. That'll help us set our toe. So for this application, we're gonna want either 0 degrees of toe or just a slight bit of toe in. What is it?
1/16.
1/16 of an inch of toe in. And that just kind of helps the trailer want to center itself when you're tracking down the road. If you had toe out and the wheels are pointed outwards, the trailer is going to be a little bit more squirrely behind the vehicle. As far as camber, we're just using a digital angle finder, and we're referencing some points that we know on the frame that are going to be, we can zero out and then see how many degrees we are here. We'll set those shims that I showed you earlier in place as needed underneath these bolts here. And hopefully we can get this thing spec'd out where we need it to be. So here we have our digital angle finder. This thing is gonna come in handy for finding our camber. So we know already from marking this thing side to side that we have the trailer completely level. So we'll get this on the frame, we'll zero it out, and then we'll take it and put it on our hub mounting surface. Make sure it's completely level. And that's where we can see our camber in degrees. We are onto the brakes here, so we just got everything unboxed and cleaned up here. So we have our mounting surface here, braking surface, and then over here we have the actual brake and backing plate assembly. Real simple installation on this, so you can see in the directions it gives you torque specs for mounting this down onto the spindle. Chris is working on the bearings right now. Everything greased up, and now he's just gonna go ahead and seat the seal in place.
All right, flush all the way around. This is grease. It's called axle grease.
Ew.
Yeah, it gets everywhere. Don't worry.
All right, so now we have this fully assembled. You can see the inner seal in there and the inner bearing. Everything's greased. All right, so at this point we have everything assembled on here. We have our torque wrench. You're gonna need a big torque wrench because this thing is 200 foot-pounds to seat the bearing. And then there's a procedure for backing off, retightening, backing off, and retightening again before we put our pin lock in here. So we're gonna hit that 200 here and start backing off. All right, so per the guide, torque this nut to 200 foot-pounds. Then we backed off 1 full turn. We're gonna get a smaller torque wrench and we're gonna torque it to 50 foot-pounds this time. Okay, so we just torqued to 50. Now we're gonna back off 1/4 turn.
That's it.
And that is it for seating the bearing on this. Again, this is on the 6,000-pound brakes, the 3500 HD spindle. So make sure whatever setup you go with, you're checking your directions for specs. Now we can go ahead and just drop our cotter pin in there, put the dust cap on. So we have driver's side hub completed. Now the only thing we have left to do on this side, which we're gonna do at the end here, is wire in the electric brakes. So these do need to be soldered. One thing you'll notice is both of the wires coming out of the brake are the same color. It doesn't matter which way you go. They're not polarity specific. You just need 12 volts to them when the brakes are applied. All right, just got the trailer back on the ground. Wheels are torqued down and everything's looking great. We like I mentioned earlier, kind of bias the suspension a little bit forward so that when the suspension swings up under load, it'll center itself in the wheel housing. It looks like we nailed that measurement. I don't know if that's luck or skill. Underneath, you can see just how everything looks under here. It's super clean. Now we're gonna hook it back up to the Jeep, get it pulled out of here, go take it for a test drive, see how it does. All right, we are all set. We just went for a quick test drive around the block. Everything seems to be in working order. I will say my Icon suspension was definitely tired and worn like I thought it was. There was a lot of sway in the trailer with it and a lot of bouncing. I don't think the shocks were doing much. Probably needed a rebuild. But again, we swapped to the Timbren 3500 HD mainly to get the HD spindles on here, something that's more built for off-roading and designed for the kind of stuff that we put this through. Now, Turtleback does sell a new Icon suspension that includes those 3500 HD spindles, but it just wasn't cost effective for us. And I also had some other benefits with this. I wanted to actually bring the overall height of the trailer down, get it a little bit lower behind the Jeep, easier to fit in the garage, lower center of gravity. So there's other considerations in this as well. And again, this is just a high level overview of what this install looks like. So if you have questions, if there's things I didn't include in this video, I have a whole bunch of notes, a whole bunch of other video that I took and photos that I took along the process. Chris is a wealth of knowledge, so huge thanks to Chris for his expertise in helping out with this. But if you have other questions, leave those in the comments. I'd be happy to help in any way that I can. Timbren is also a great resource. I reached out to them before starting this project, and they were able to give me a ton of information on what to consider and what I really needed for my setup. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the trail.